All right, Scratch programmer. So let's get to today's lesson. We're going to use a little bit more of what's available here that Scratch has to offer. We're going to use a background for our stage. We're going to use a couple of different sprites, and we're going to use some more blocks, different blocks than we did last time with our knock knock joke. Hopefully that knock knock joke was a good introduction to today's lesson, which is going to be an aquarium. Maybe you have an aquarium at home. Maybe you visited an aquarium. But I think every time we've seen an aquarium, or you can imagine an aquarium, it does not have a white background like this. So, how do we change this stage? Like when you go see a play, there's going to be some things in the background. Same thing with Scratch. So the stage here has one backdrop. We click on that, and you notice the right side of your screen has changed here. This has still got scripts, so the stage itself can have scripts, and it can change its backdrops. Costumes are what actors or the sprites use, and the background uses a backdrop. So let's add a new backdrop, and you'll see there's a lot of different ones here that Scratch gives you by default that you can choose from. A blue sky, some that look pictures of an area, so they look very realistic if you want to play on a baseball field or on the beach. You can spend some time scrolling around on this to look at what there is, but the one I want to use is going to be down at the bottom, and it's going to be called Underwater 3. Underwater 1 and 2 look a little more realistic, but we don't have realistic looking fish. I think we have cartoon fish. So we're going to go with Underwater 3, which is a little cartoony, but I think that's fine. It makes it fun. So now you see our background is there, and that looks good. If you want to draw or change things, you can do that over here on the right-hand side. But I think for now, this background looks okay. The problem is our cat. He shouldn't be over there. So let's try something new. We're going to use, well, let's add a fish first. We'll go back to New Sprite down here, and you click on this to choose from the library. And if we choose animals over on the left-hand side, it will filter through all our pictures. Like you could choose just fantasy, you could choose just letters. We're going to choose just animals for now. And you see right there we have 3 fish to start with. And I'll start with fish number 1. Choose that guy. He fits in well. And there's a couple problems here. 1, our cat needs to go. And 2, our fish is kind of large. Let's take care of these problems with these tools up at the top that we haven't used before. One's called duplicate. One's called delete, the scissors. These arrows pointing out is grow. And the arrows pointing in is to shrink. So let's remove our cat first. So take the scissors, carefully go click on the cat, and now he's gone. And then choose this shrink and use those arrows pointing in and click on the fish. Each time he shrinks a little bit. I'm going to click on him a few more times. There you go. So I think that's a good size for my fish in this aquarium. A fish is too big in an aquarium. It's not happy. It needs to have some space to swim around and move. Oh, yeah. So speaking of moving, let's get this guy to move a little bit. So you remember if we click on this move 10 steps, you'll see our fish move. But we kind of want it to move all the time, don't we? So let's use some of our control blocks that we had. Last time we used this wait 1 second. And that worked for telling knock knock jokes. But here we want our fish to move over and over again. You see any blocks that might help with that? These 2 here are pretty much our choices. Repeat or forever. And repeat will repeat that action 10 times. Forever, we'll do those actions forever. So I think we want our fish to move more than just 10 times. So then let's try this forever block. And then we have to go back to motion. and put the move 10 steps inside there. And now when we activate this, the fish will move 10 steps forever. Remember, we want to use these events when the green flag is clicked to start our program. That's where we're telling our fish action and start acting. And let's see what happens now if we do that. He moves into the wall there. And if I drag it back out, he keeps moving into the wall. So, that's okay. There's a little bit of a problem. And this problem is pretty common. So there's a special block that they have in Scratch back in the motion section. It's down here at the bottom. If you don't see it on your screen, you might have to scroll down a little bit. Check this scroll bar out here. But here it is. If on edge, bounce. And so I'm going to drag that guy over and put it after the 10 steps. So now, after he moves 10 steps, he'll check if he's on the edge, and if he's touching the edge, he's going to bounce. So you see him now bouncing back and forth. Okay. Anything else look a little odd about this fish? Let me stop the program here. It looks upside down. And a fish that's upside down is not a very healthy fish in the real world. They're sometimes pretty sick. So we don't want to make it seem like our fish is sick. The reason he's upside down is because he's turned into this direction. He's pointing left. And if you blow up the fish detail using this little eye button here by the fish, you can see information about it. Its name, its location, the direction it's pointing, which is left, and its rotation style. And this rotation style will change how it looks no matter what direction it's put. So I can change the direction of the fish with this little knob here. You click on it and drag it around, and you see how the fish spins around in whatever direction it's facing. And that's why when it's going left, it's upside down. Using this other rotation style like this says, just turn left or right. Don't go upside down, just face left or right. You see, the people who made Scratch, they think about these things that you want to do. The last one is always be the way that you start out. So no matter what direction you're facing, you're always going to point that way. We'll get into objects that want to use all of these different types of rotation style as we go through more exercises. But for now, we're just going to have our fish point left or right. Okay? And now, if I close this up again, and I hit the green flag, our fish is going. But what's wrong with this now? It's sort of just boring, maybe. A little uninteresting. So what if we turn 15 degrees? Well, that's different. Not sure that's a little more interesting, though, because now our fish is just doing these circles. Now, since I took that out, it's a little more interesting because it's not always changing direction. So what we wanted to do is every now and then change directions, but not all the time. And so we can do that by introducing something called probability. Like sometimes it will change directions. And we use probability. It's kind of like flipping a coin. If you were to flip a coin, and if it's heads, let's change directions. And if it's not, we're going to keep going the same direction. That's kind of what we'll do here. We'll make the fish flip a coin every time it decides to move 10 steps and see if it wants to change direction. And the way you flip a coin is using this pick random operator in the green section. So let's pull all our blocks over to the side to see what we need to do. And we're going to have to use, let's say, less than. And then we're going to need a control. So we want to say something like, if we flip a coin and it's heads, let's change directions. So that is an if statement, and you'll see this if statement here. We'll bring that in. And I didn't mention it before with that forever, but these pieces that look like little monster jaws, they do whatever's inside their mouth over and over again. Or in this case, if whatever something we make is true, if the coin is heads, then we're going to do our movement. So then we'll turn 15 degrees. And now we just need to build our coin flipping mechanism. So take this less than sign and drop it in there. You'll see that it gets an outline of white. And what's interesting with Scratch is that you'll see the shape of this hole is a hexagon, and that means you need to put a hexagon in it. I have this one that's a rounded pill, and that's not going to fit in that spot at all. Okay, that spot fits in here, which is really a square. It fits into square areas too, but this rounded rectangle or this square. Okay, then drag this hexagon and put it in there, and now we say if, and here we pick a random number between 1 and 10. If that's greater than our number, then we're going to turn 15 degrees. So let's say 5, and that'll be half the time, right? Because 5 is half of 10. And so now our fish moves and it changes 15 degrees half the time, and it moves a little bit differently now. Well, that might be a little too often, flipping coins. So if we make it less likely, if we say, oh, how many numbers between 1 and 10 are above 9, then it doesn't change direction so much. It does it rarely, right? And you can make this even bigger if you need better control. If you say, oh, pick a number between 1 and 100, well, then most of them are bigger than 9, but most of them are not bigger than 94. And now that'll make it even less likely. Then it changes directions. So how's this fish moving now? I feel like it's okay. It's a little fast for me. And how do you decide what the speed is, you think, out of all these variables here that we have? How many steps it moves? And so that's how fast you do it. Every time it goes through this loop, it's moving 10 steps. So if we made that number bigger, let's make it 20. The fish moves even faster. Or if we make it smaller, let's make it 3. Then the fish moves a little bit slower. That's still even a little too fast for me. How about 2? Now this is a little bit more relaxing. And then here, the only thing left is something we're always turning to the right 15 degrees. So it makes our fish still a little predictable. What if we pick the random number instead? So it didn't always turn 15 degrees, but could turn 1 to 15 degrees. But it's still always turning right. So we can make it negative 15 to 15 degrees. And now sometimes it'll turn left, and sometimes it'll turn right. Just a little bit as it moves along. So it doesn't move in quite a straight line, but it doesn't move in a circle. I think that looks pretty good. What else would our aquarium need? More fish? Is that what you're thinking? More fish? Okay. Let's add another sprite. Go back to animals. And let's choose this next fish right here. Oh, he's so big again. So let's use our shrink tool. Shrink this fish up a little bit. That looks about right. And now, let's see if we can make it do the same thing this fish was doing. And here's a shortcut. If you take this block, click on it, and drag it over onto the other fish, It stays here, but also now this fish, or this sprite, gets all those actions too. And when I press the green flag, now they both do that. Uh-oh. This fish went upside down, and he's not sick. Do you remember how we fix that? We go into the information section of this fish and change its rotation style. There we go. And now the fish points left and right. That fish still seems a little big for me. It makes me nervous, that being that big. Maybe there. Okay. So now we have two fish. And I did see that last time I saw one other thing that would be a lot of fun in our aquarium. And that was our buddy from the knock knock joke, the crab. Let's add the crab to this. Whoa, monster crab again. Let's shrink the crab a little bit. Maybe even a little bit more. Okay. And let's try that thing again. Let's give our crab the same rules as our fish and see how that works. Oh, our crab's upside down. Okay, we know how to deal with that. Let's change its rotation style again. And there goes our crab. But our crab shouldn't really swim this much, should it? Crabs generally stay on the ground. So let's put them back down on the ground. And we want it to stay down in this area. And we go back into this information section. I said it tells you the name of the sprite, its location, its direction. And this location is something we can use. There's X and Y values. And that is every dot in this stage has an address. It has locations. And you see right here, you can see the location of my mouse. And as I move that around, it tells you the address for my mouse. And if I move the crab around, it shows the address for my crab. And so if I put the crab 0, 0, I don't know if I can get quite there perfectly. That's the middle of the screen. If I move to the right, X goes up. If I move to the left, X goes down. If I move up, Y values increase. If I move down, Y values decrease. So if we want our crab to stay low, its X values can change to be anything it wants, but its Y values, we don't want them to get too high. And it looks like, oh, let's say that's the highest we want our crab to get, which is about 150, negative 150. So we need to check if our crab ever gets that high, then we should point them back down. So if, and then we need some condition again, and we're going to say if our crab ever gets a location that is greater than minus 150, then we want to go back down again. How do we find out where our crab is, though? Well, there's this set of blocks called sensing, and this will tell you all sorts of different things about the state of the world. If sprites are touching each other, touching colors, if some color is touching another color, all these things, and we're getting to more of those. But the one we're interested in is, I think we have to scroll down a little bit here, right down here, the X position of crab. Well, it's close. We wanted the Y position of crab. And so what Scratch does is it has these little triangles here that tell you, well, you can change these values. So let's see. If we click on that, I can change to the X, the Y, the direction, the costume number, the name, the size, the volume. Well, we want to check the Y position of crab. And similarly, if I click on this, I can choose the stage, the fish, so I can check other sprites, other actors' status, but the crab is what we want. If we check the Y position of the crab, and if it is greater than 150 degrees, then we want to point down again. And remember this thing? This was our direction. So let's see what down looks like. We want to go down and to the left, like minus 103 degrees, any one of these values. Any value between 180 or minus 180 and 103. Let's just pick one of those. So motion, we go back to motion to change what direction it is. It's this block here. And right now it says only 90 degrees, but it has that drop down. It tells you those 4, but it also lets you click in it. So if I click in it and change that to 96 degrees, then that will make it point a little bit down. Let's see what 96 looks like. That was close. All right, 100. So our crab will start going down that way and go down. Let's see how things work now. This crab's too fast. Let's move one step. And you can actually even get smaller than one step. We can make it go slower by saying 0.5 steps, half a step, every time it goes through this loop. And there it is. We have a stage. We've gone through some special blocks, if on edge bounce, the forever block, some if blocks. We've checked the position of sprites. We used random numbers. Oh, since we went through stages, what we didn't do is costumes. Costumes are the same things as stages are, but for sprites. And our buddy here, the crab, he has a couple of costumes, where his claws open and close. How do you think we could use that in this program? We could make it where every now and then he will open and close his claws. So let's add another if, and we'll go back and we'll make another conditional, and we'll use a random number. And let's say it's not that common, so if the random number is bigger than 8, then let's change our costume. And where can we change our costume? It's in this looks blocks. So look at the looks blocks, and down here we have next costume, and that's just a way of saying let's switch our costume. And now you see Crabman. He's got some active claws there. All right. All right. I think that's going to be it for today. Hope you enjoy your aquarium.